Welcome to Sand City Sports. I am your host, the Cape Cod Kid, artist formerly known as Andre King, and we're back to bring you all the sports and current events news stories that you need to know. Let's get it started. Folks, this is America, the land of opportunity, where we love nothing more than a comeback story. Someone who either fights their way to the top over and against long odds, or an individual who, after being on top, tumbles all the way down to rock bottom and then has to pick themselves up and climb that lofty mountain once again. Last weekend, Americans rallied to a comeback that's been 5 years in the making as Tiger Woods captured the Tour Championship in Atlanta. Beginning the final round with a 3-stroke lead over Rory McIlroy, Tiger shot a final round score of 71, while McIlroy and Rose would shoot 74 and 73 respectively. Finishing with a final score of 11 under par, Woods won the Tour Championship by 2 strokes, giving him his 80th PGA Tour victory, placing him 2 wins behind Sam Snead in all-time PGA Tour victories. Yes, indeed, there is nothing like a good old-fashioned comeback story. And Tiger Woods will finish the season as the 13th ranked golfer in the world, while last year he saw his rank drop to 1,199. Hats off to Tiger. And we're going to be looking for this same type of performance next year at Augusta National. Kicking it over to football, no pun intended there. I actually forgot to replace my injured kicker in my fantasy football league, and the boys were none too pleased with me. But nevertheless, after 3 weeks of NFL competition, it's now quite clear to everyone that the Miami Dolphins are, and maybe should have always been, the favorites to take home the Lombardi Trophy. Now, don't quote me on that or place any investments on DraftKings or FanDuel based on that recommendation. But as was previously discussed on this show, the reason the NFL is the Zeus of professional sports leagues is because from week to week, Forrest Gump can offer you as good, if not better, advice as any pundit, expert, former player, or absolute fanatic that you may or may not live with. And the textbook example of this, for which the people here in New England are still walking around in a daze, is the Detroit Lions' 26-10 victory this Sunday over the New England Patriots. This game had everything, but we're going to start off by giving credit where credit is due. 2 weeks into the season, we didn't know if Matt Patricia was going to be employed by the Detroit Lions for that game on Thanksgiving that always seems to take place in Detroit. But after Sunday's game in the Motor City, you can pencil in Matt Patricia for collard greens, macaroni and cheese, gravy, mashed potatoes, turkey, roast beef, and all the fixings for this year, next year, and into the foreseeable future if the Detroit Lions continue to play at that level. For only the 3rd time in his NFL career, Tom Brady began a football game with 3 and-outs. The Detroit Lions almost doubled the New England Patriots in time of possession, controlling the ball for 39 minutes to the Patriots' 21. For the first time since 2013, a Detroit Lions running back rushed for over 100 yards. And after 3 NFL games, the New England Patriots ranked 25th in overall offense and 28th in overall defense. A lot of question marks surrounding the New England Patriots as the first quarter of the NFL season comes to a close, and for at least one coach in the Midwest maybe one or two fewer sleepless nights as he and his team continue forward on their journey. Folks, I don't come from a football background, and the fact that I reside in the welterweight division well into my 30s has nothing to do with it. Allen Iverson, who has a similar body type, although a couple inches taller, led his high school to the Group 3A Virginia State Championship as a junior in a region with a football tradition that is second to none. No, the reason my one touchdown in intramural collegiate flag football competition pales in comparison to Allen Iverson's football achievements has nothing to do with the minor disparity in height and meteoric disparity in athleticism between us. The reason Allen Iverson is a boyhood legend on the gridiron and I remain a flag football free agent comes down to one thing: toughness. And that is exactly what the NFL is trying to take out of the game for all intents and purposes, so far as the quarterback position is concerned. Clay Matthews was once again penalized for roughing the passer last week on a play in which the contact was average at best. And in the Monday Night Football game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there were 4 roughing the passer penalties in the first half alone. The reaction to this tidal wave of flags has been sweeping and almost unanimous in its dissent, causing the NFL Competition Committee to convene an impromptu meeting over the next week to discuss the surge in penalty flags. And perhaps the most important example for the committee to consider is not a $100 million franchise quarterback who was not injured during the first 3 weeks of NFL play, but William Hayes, a Miami Dolphins defensive lineman who was lost for the season suffering an ACL injury trying to stop on a dime during a tackle in order to avoid a roughing the passer penalty. As previously discussed on this program, the NFL has doubled down on their protections of the quarterback, seemingly only making the game more dangerous for offensive and defensive players alike. Also, 3 weeks into the season, the Minnesota Vikings, Pittsburgh Steelers, Green Bay Packers, and Cleveland Browns all hold the same record, while the Miami Dolphins, Kansas City Chiefs, and LA Rams search to and fro for a worthy opponent. Concluding our NFL coverage, the most profitable sports franchise in the world, the winningest team in the NFL over the last 2 decades, the Seattle Seahawks and the Indianapolis Colts all have the same record. NBA training camps kicked off on Monday, and I don't care what anybody says. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most wonderful time of the year. Never mind all of the great sports action we have going on elsewhere. The NBA is gearing up for another campaign, and I am pumped. So, Media Day was on Monday, and we had new faces in new places, new hairstyles and profiles, and above all, we have great expectations. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, and in most places in the NBA community, the initial steps into the new season are mostly hopeful. Different teams will clearly begin the season with different goals, but if any of you out there are Timberwolves fans like I am, you realize that at least one team is starting the season with very humble goals. I've made it known that basketball is my game of choice, and the Timberwolves are my favorite team for one reason above all else. Tom Thibodeau is my homie. I've been following his career since he was an assistant coach with Jeff Van Gundy, also one of my favorite coaches and commentators, to his time with the Boston Celtics, being an integral part of the 2008 championship team and 2010 championship run, to most notably his time with the Chicago Bulls, where he was the 2011 NBA Coach of the Year and fastest coach in NBA history to 100 wins, to now his tenure with the Minnesota Timberwolves, where, at least on paper, they are among the most talented teams in the entire NBA. That being said, this offseason has been a complete soap opera, for which I place the blame squarely on Mr. Tom Thibodeau. Look, they say different strokes for different folks. Fine, I get that. Gordon wanted to come to Boston to play for Brad Stevens. LeBron wanted to go to LA to build his brand. KD wanted to go to Golden State so that somebody would actually pass him the ball. And Blake wanted to go to Detroit to hang out with Jalen Rose. But that being said, Jimmy Butler was supposed to be a Tom Thibodeau guy. Tibbs gave him his start playing for the Bulls, and he took full advantage of his opportunity, particularly after D. Rose's injuries started to pile up. It was agreed upon that Jimmy Butler would take his talents 2 states over in exchange for 3 young, dynamic, up-and-coming players. In Minnesota, Butler would join arguably the most talented young core in the association and provide leadership and toughness for a formidable playoff contender. We saw glimpses of this during the 2018 season as the Timberwolves climbed the playoff rankings, staying in the top half for notable segments of the year. And although they stumbled to end the season, finishing with the 8th seed and falling to the Houston Rockets in 5 games, the Timberwolves did end their 13-year playoff drought and develop quality momentum going into the 2019 season. And here comes the offseason. Jimmy Butler demands to be traded. Tom Thibodeau's response, bring him to camp. Jimmy Butler has a problem with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, and both of these number 1 overall picks have a problem with Jimmy Butler. Tom Thibodeau's response, bring them to camp. Owner Glenn Taylor steps in and signs a 5-year max extension with Karl Anthony Towns and mandates that Thibodeau accept trade offers for Jimmy Butler. Tom Thibodeau's response, bring them to camp. Tom Thibodeau's response to the Timberwolves offseason is the equivalent of a homeowner standing outside of his house as it burns to the ground, with his only response being, maybe it will rain. I can't condone it. I have no rationale for it. And if Tommy Boy doesn't change his tune soon, he is going to be a guest here on Sand City Sports in the very near future. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here at Sand City Sports. Go ahead and comment, like, and subscribe as you feel the need. And we're going to keep bringing you all the sports and current events news stories that you need to know. We'll see you next time.
Souls do sedate ourselves. Just a number, it's pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to retake ourselves. So yes, we peace of souls do sedate ourselves, just a number of this pain we feel. Yes, at times we do hate ourselves, but each day we try to embrace ourselves. Yeah.